Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we simulated some of the 2016-17 season just because our team wasn't off to the best of starts, and we have kind of found our game a little bit at this point in time. As you can see now, we are 27-25-9. In last episode, we started off really bad, but we have been kind of finding our legs a little bit with the new head coach, which is great, but there is definitely still a lot of work to do, especially on the offensive side of things. As you can see right now, we are still 24th in goals for, and we're also 26th on the power play, so offense has been struggling a bit, but we are a very good defensive team still, 5th on goals against per game average, and 2nd on the penalty kill. So if we could find our offensive game a little bit more, this team will definitely start to win a lot more games. But you can see we're 8-0-2 in our last 10 games. So I feel like this team definitely will end up finding a way to make the playoffs somehow. But obviously there's still a lot of work to go, and we need to make sure that we don't fall too far back or we don't lose multiple games in a row, or else that could hurt us. So hopefully in this episode we can maybe make some trades to help us out offensively that could help propel us into the playoffs. If we miss, it's not the hugest problem in the world. Or the biggest problem, I should say, not hugest, because hugest isn't a word, but it isn't the biggest problem in the world because this team is still young, and we have a lot of leg room to work on this team and grow them as well. So excited to see what ends up happening the rest of this episode. Hopefully we can find a way back into that postseason, and then once we get to the postseason, if we do, hopefully we can find a way to have a nice little run again like we did last season. But anyways, with that said, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into the 2016-17 trade deadline. So the first comment is from Sour Taco. Says, you're probably not going to like this, but I'll say it anyway. Unload Eberle and Jankumovs at the deadline. I don't think Marleau would be a bad option as a pure rental, though you could look into other teams with centers who aren't necessarily on the block. Move Fada or Yak to the second line, bring up Holden, and put either him or Val on the third line. So he's saying that unload both Eberle and Jankumovs, and to be honest, I wasn't planning on moving Jankumovs, but there's a potential trade that I have in mind, and I'll get to that in a little bit, about moving out from Jankumovs and somebody that can maybe bolster our second line a little bit more so down the middle. It'll give us an actual center, which will be good, and then maybe we could find a way to get Holden up from the AHL, because if you guys didn't know, Holden in the AHL, even though he's only got, like, I think top 6'4" potential, he's been very, very good this season, as has most of the top line. The youngster and Alto, who might be in NHL next year, is really good. But Dale Holden has been over point per game this season, and he's a plus 50. He definitely looks like the type of guy that should be in the NHL. If you look at his attributes, like his shot accuracy is not super good, so I don't know if he's going to be a good goal scorer at the NHL level. Same with his passing, but he does have the shot power. He has very good awareness, so maybe he could be a good defensive center too, despite being a sniper. So we'll probably call him up once we make the trade. And then, obviously, if we do get Holden up here, he'll probably end up taking this third line spot, and we'll be definitely promoting Fada into this top 6. And Nyquist can move over to the wing instead, where he's currently playing down the middle, which doesn't make sense because he's not a center. So that's why I was thinking upgrading that center spot is probably the best bet for us. Now, he was saying about Patrick Marleau being maybe not a bad pure rental option, and I think Marleau would be solid here as well, but obviously he's older. We're kind of a young team. We kind of want to build up on young players, so there's a different player I have in mind, and that's where we get into the next comment. So those two comments are from Max Effort. The first one says, Brock Nelson would be a decent pickup in my opinion. So that's the type of player we'd be looking into, is probably Brock Nelson. Now, if I go to the find trade option here, Brock Nelson is somebody we could actually get and for a relatively decent price. It would cost us basically just Jankumov straight up. And that's what it would cost us. Nelson is the exact same age as Jankumovs, but he's got lower potential and all that. But Nelson has been producing better. Jankumovs has been a good goal scorer for us. He's actually tied for second on the team in goals right now. So it is kind of tough for us to move out Jankumovs in that sense, because he's been a great goal scorer right now, kind of for this team. Like, he's one of the better goal scorers on the roster right now. But obviously bringing in a center for that second line center spot is probably something that we need to do, because obviously playing Gus Nyquist down the middle probably doesn't make much sense. Originally we had Nathan McKinnon there, but now we're kind of utilizing McKinnon maybe more as a right winger to play next to Cameron. So We're probably going to look into doing a deal like this, Jankumovs for Nelson. There was some other offers as well for Nelson, like 2 second-round picks to me. Sounds like a no-brainer, even though he is a pending UFA. There's also Holden in a second. I wouldn't trade Holden because, like I said, I think Holden's going to be decent. We'll probably end up playing him on the third line if we do move Fauda into the top 6. And then also Dorsett in a second is not a bad one because Dorsett likely won't pan out. And then there's also Tremblay in a second. I don't know if Tremblay will really pan out, but I think the move that we'll look into probably doing is this Jakimov straight up for Nelson one. That way we free up a roster spot for Holden to come up from the AHL. Even though I kind of want Holden to finish out the year in the minors in a way, just because that top line's been so good. But obviously we got to make our NHL team better first rather than our AHL team. And lastly, Max also says, get rid of Eberle, bring in Marleau, bring up Vada to the second, keep Marleau on the third, gain cap space in the offseason for Nelson, or let him walk. So he's saying to still bring in Marleau. I don't think we're going to bring in multiple players this offseason, or this regular season. I think instead the play is to probably bring in Brock Nelson right now and promote Holden and just to see what Holden could do at the NHL level. And I think promoting a younger guy rather than bringing in somebody like Marleau makes more sense in my opinion. So likely we will still trade Eberle in this episode too, because we kind of have to, but I don't know what we're going to be looking for. Eberle doesn't have a lot of value. He hasn't been super good this season. Last year he was really solid, but this year he's just dropped off a cliff in terms of goal scoring, right? Like he's not hit 30 goals yet at this point, which is depressing. He's also a pending UFA. So I think the play here is likely to get Nyquist back to his left side. Jankumovs and Eberle both get moved out, basically. So we'll put Fada onto this right wing spot, or we can put Nyquist there. It doesn't really matter, I guess, for that matter. But we will put in this spot Brock Nelson, because that's where we're going to be trading Jankumovs for. Then we have to find a way to get rid of Eberle. Likely in this exact same third line spot is where I'll throw in Holden to play next to Marcoux and Yakupov. So I think that's basically the play. Do I want to part with Jankumovs right now? Not really. But I think, obviously, for Brock Nelson is not a bad idea. Also, his no movement clause kicks in next year. And like Sarutaku has been saying, he's not necessarily worth that type of money. He has had some really good goal-scoring seasons. 34 goals one year, so he definitely has the promise to become a decent goal scorer. But I think for right now, obviously, moving out from him might not be bad. He wasn't really good last year in the playoffs, so I'd like to see a little bit more out of him going forward if I was to keep him. But I think getting more centers is probably what we need most, because we have a lot of good winger talent. But like say Holden's also a winger. He doesn't play faceoffs actually, but we do need more centers probably than anything else. So I think by bringing in a center like Brock Nelson, it would be a nice complementary player to have behind Cameron and also in between Marcoux as well. So I think that's what we're going to lean towards doing, just because we have great winger depth down the middle. We need to find a way to get that center core better. So let's go to find trade again and make that deal for Brock Nelson. It's kind of funny having Brock Nelson in this series now too, because obviously he was in my Islanders series for so long as well. But let's go find trade on that, and we will do this one. I'll show you guys a little bit more of a comparison so you can see how Brock Nelson's been. But both these teams kind of maybe want to just make players change scenery as well. Dallas hasn't been super good this season. They've actually been pretty terrible. But Jankumovs maybe needs a little bit of a change of scenery, not too much of one. But you can see Brock Nelson, definitely more of a playmaker, it looks like. He's only been playing 4 years in the NHL, but he has been getting better every single season. And then from a playoff perspective, he's only got the 1 year playoff experience, but I think he'll definitely help us in terms of getting more offense from that second line, and also hopefully helping us out defensively too, because look at his defensive stats. I don't know how he developed these defensive stats, but he's got very good defensive awareness. His faceoffs are good, shot blocking's good, stick checking's good. And the good thing about him as well is he's also kind of usable as a left winger instead. We don't have to be like necessarily like scrambling to find a left winger at some point, because he could play left wing if we get into trouble where we have too many centers, that type of thing. And like I said, he's only 25 years old as well, just as old as Jankumovs. So I think this is a good deal. It kind of sucks to get rid of our second best goal scorer on the team right now, especially when we're needing more offense. But I think Nelson could make our offense kind of spread throughout more players. Jankumovs might do more offense by himself. So let's make this deal with the Dallas Stars, send Jankumovs to Dallas, and we will bring in Brock Nelson. So there's an interesting deal. Not too sure if it was what I was expecting to do. Apparently, Jankumovs was a quality player, but I think Brock Nelson should do well here. And if he doesn't, that trade might go looked on as a bad deal, but I think it's a nice little deal to make for now. And we'll see if Nelson fits in nicely next to Nyquist and also Fada. So we'll get Nelson in there. We'll also make sure he's on the power play, which he should already be probably. Oh, he is on the first unit already. I think that's not a bad spot for him as well, playing next to Cameron, McKinnon, Toffoli, Falk. Like, maybe Nelson could help our power play out too, because our power play hasn't been the best thing for us right now. So I like that deal a little bit. I think that's good for us for now. Obviously, I'm kind of curious on how Fada's going to do in the top 6, because Fada right now was also one of the better goal scorers on the team. He almost actually had as much as Jankomov. So maybe Fada getting a little bit of an elevated role is not a bad idea. He's only a two-way forward, so I don't expect him to have a huge offensive ceiling, but we will definitely see how he does in a top 6 role. If he doesn't do well, obviously Yakupov could maybe be in that spot down the road, Val Nikushkin, somebody like that, but that's one of the only trades we're going to make. We're also going to find a trade for Eberle. Like I said, his value is very low. I don't really expect to get too much for him. I actually might retain, so that way we're still cap compliant. But let's go find trade on Eberle and see what teams would give us for him. But I think it was low value, if I remember right. Yeah, it was like 2 4th-round picks for Eberle. Just doesn't seem reasonable, but we probably would do something like that. I could trade for prospects, but 2 3rd-round picks from the Calgary Flames is nice, but I don't want to really send him to a rival, so we won't do that. Carolina would be a 3rd and a prospect for Bada and a 5th. A 2nd and a 6th from LA is not bad, but once again, kind of a rival. 2 4th-rounders, 2 3rds from the Penguins. The Penguins are a very good team already. They don't need more good players. 2nd and a 5th. Tampa's been good. Kopp in a 3rd. A 3rd in Shelley. Isbister, who's a defensive prospect. I don't really need defensive prospects, though. And Asham. I think I'm going to be probably leaning towards sending him to a bad team, just because I think it makes more sense. So Boston, I don't know why they'd want him, to be honest. Boston's not been great this season, but I'd prefer to probably take these picks over 2 3rd-rounders from the Penguins, just because the Penguins have been really good. Boston's kind of in the same boat as us, trying to fight to get back into the playoff mix a bit. So giving them Eberle maybe gets them back into the playoff mix a bit too. So it's kind of a good trade for them in a sense to make for, but I don't expect Eberle to light the world on fire. But even though this is technically a bad trade in a way, I think 2 4th-rounders is what I'd do for Eberle. I know we could probably get more value eventually, but he's a pending UFA. He's having a down year. I think this is probably the best we could really get for him, unfortunately. So let's send Jordan Eberle to the Boston Bruins. We're going to get back 2 4th-round picks. Maybe we could use those in future trades, but best of luck to him with the Boston Bruins. All right, so Eberle is on his way to Boston. Now we will call up Holden, and he'll get a chance to make his debut as a 3rd-line left winger. We'll see if we could find a way to get him on the power play, too. I think he should be able to get onto the power play since we just traded Eberle, which is good. So I'm excited for Holden. It kind of sucks, though, like I said, to not be playing him in the AHL on that top line, because that AHL team's been really good so far. But I think Holden being on that 3rd line, I think that's a decent spot for him. Obviously, we could maybe move him into the top 6, but I think obviously he's worthy of promotion just because he's been really good in the AHL. So it does suck that he doesn't get to finish the season in the AHL, but I think obviously getting a chance in the NHL with some power play time and all that, maybe that will help give him a little bit of a boost, and maybe he can be a really good goal scorer at the NHL level as well. Like I said, he's not bad defensively too, so should be an intriguing player nonetheless. And he's not currently on the power play, but maybe I could find a way to get him into it. Just trying to see if there's somebody I would remove from the power play. I do like Mackey and Zherdev both being on the power play just because they're both offensive defensemen. But Mackey hasn't been the craziest yet, so maybe we take Mackey off for the time being. Maybe Mackey comes back on it next year. But let's give a chance to Holden on the power play number 2, just to give him a little bit more ice time than usual, and maybe he can find a way to score some goals. Now, he's not a great fit for our power play, but we'll definitely see if he actually fits it well. Looks like some of his attributes dropped off since we called him up, but I do expect him to be decent enough. If he's not doing decent, obviously we can make more adjustments, but I think that is all the moves we are going to basically make in this episode alone. Yeah, I think it makes sense. Obviously, we aren't as strong as we were before because Eberle used to be in the spot, but maybe Fada assimilates better than Eberle in terms of the top six role. Maybe Nelson can help spread that offense more than Jankomovs can, and maybe Holden will surprise us with his offense too. So I think that is pretty much all we need to do. There is guys in the AHL that could get called up at some point too, but obviously, I think for now, this is probably what we want to run with. And we'll throw in this random dude that had signed us for the AHL. Duke Timmons. What a name. Was actually drafted by the Rangers apparently in this. I don't really care who's on this part. Let's give it to... Colton Parayko's probably on a power play, correct? No, he's not. Let's give it to Colton Parayko. Why not? Since he's one of our better defensive prospects. So we'll do that. Apparently there's still more spots I need to put him on. God damn. Oh well, but our HL team's been killing it, so hopefully they still make the playoffs, and hopefully they could go for a Calder Cup run. Also, it's still saying that there's an error. I think it must be in the strategies portion, right? Oh yeah, it definitely is, yeah. Because Brock McGinn's listed as the distributor and the finisher, so we'll just do something like that to change things up a bit. Alright, so everything is nice and set up and ready to go for our team for the rest of the season. We'll obviously take a look at what type of trades go down at the trade deadline. Boston's actually over the cap after we made that trade, so I do not know why they wanted Eberle, but apparently they were able to bring him in despite being over the cap. And Eberle is in the NHL, so I guess they're going to have to trade away somebody, but oh well. Actually, never mind, they're not over the cap now because it just readjusted itself. That was strange. Oh well. Okay, so I think we're good for the rest of the season. Obviously, there's areas to upgrade, but now we have cap space available to us and stuff like that as well a little bit more than normal. So that means during the off season this upcoming year, maybe we could look to add more good pieces. But I think now we kind of balanced out our offense approach a bit more, considering we're now using McKinnon more as a right winger on the top line. Getting that second line center, I think, was important. And now we have it, I think we have a nice little balanced approach on offense. Obviously, our defense could still use an upgrade at some point, but I'm expecting a lot of these young defensemen to continue growing, and same with the goaltenders as well. So that's probably the only deals we're going to make. We are going to advance a day past the deadline, and we'll take a look at what trades go down in 2017, and then obviously we'll simulate the rest of the season and see if this team makes it back into the playoff mix, or are we not going to be a playoff team this year. Matt Fratton is on waivers, so after we made that trade, Matt Fratton gets put on waivers by the Boston Bruins, and he's not much of anything, which is realistic to Matt Fratton. He had 20 points this season, actually had a career high of 28 points a few years back, but kind of a realistic result for Matt Fratton. Didn't really pan out at the NHL level, so that's good to see, but we're not going to claim him. Alright, so what trades went down at the 2017 trade deadline this year? Hopefully we get some crazy results because I always like the pandemonium in this type of franchise mode. So there is a waiver player. I think it's Sergei Kostitsyn. Yeah, Sergei Kostitsyn's on waivers. 2 years left. I don't think I need to claim him. He's an 80 overall, which is not that bad. As like a third-line scoring forward, it's not bad. If we didn't have Holden in the NHL, I could always claim Kostitsyn, but he is signed for 2 years. Not at a crazy high price point. And he's only 29 years old, but I'm not going to claim him. I just don't think I need him. All right, so do we get any pandemonium type trades? Like anything that we were not expecting for 2017 to go down? Hopefully we get some crazy results here because this is always my favorite time of every season. So in terms of trades for 2017, Colorado gets some prospect in a 7th. Montreal gets back a 3rd, a 4th, and Victor Tikhonov, so not much of a trade there. Toronto gets a 3rd, Eric Ryba and Ryan Petolny from San Jose. San Jose gets back that top 6 forward prospect we were offered, and also Andrew Kopp. Interesting. Dallas gets a 3rd and a 3rd. Buffalo gets back some prospect named Binnington, a 6th, and 2 others, so Dallas continues to offload people. Pittsburgh acquires Matt Murray, so that's kind of interesting. Matt Murray's on his way to Pittsburgh around the time that he actually was the starting goaltender when they won the Stanley Cup, so that's kind of neat. 3rd and a 4th from Philadelphia, so in a Pennsylvania-based trade. And then Philadelphia gets back a goalie prospect, a 4th and a 7th. So interesting little move there. Ottawa gets a 2nd and a 5th from Montreal. Montreal gets back Chris Stewart in a 3rd. So Montreal adding a forward. Phoenix adds a 3rd and a 3rd from Vancouver. Vancouver gets back a 4th. Keaton Ellerby in a 6th. Some of these deals are kind of lackluster right now. Montreal also gets Jamie McBain from Carolina. Carolina gets back some guy named Binnington and Vezina. Anaheim gets a goalie named Plante, a second and a fifth from LA, so a California-based trade. And LA gets back Nick Foligno, a third, and John Mitchell. So LA's been very good this season. They're definitely trying to find a way to win another Stanley Cup, even though they did lose Anze Kopitar in the offseason. Carolina gets Lance Howden and a Petrov. Who is that? Some two generated guys. Boston gets back a third, and Sean Avery. Of course, the Bruins would bring in Sean Avery randomly. Buffalo gets a third, and some goalie named Malkin. Tampa gets back a third, Paul Ranger and Shane O'Brien, who both used to play for Tampa. So that's kind of funny to see them both return to Tampa in the same deal. Interesting. Washington gets Jake Gardner, Mikhail Bodker, and Matt Green from Anaheim. So a big load for Washington as they look to win another Stanley Cup. Anaheim gets back a goalie prospect named Cameron, a second, and two others. Pittsburgh gets a third, a sixth, and Ladislav Schmid from Nashville. Nashville gets back two prospects, Zane Nelson, who's generated, and Jacob Megna. Chicago gets a third, a fifth, and Milan Jersina from Anaheim. Anaheim gets back a second and a goalie prospect. So a couple of teams moving out some goalie prospects this year. Minnesota gets Matthias Ekholm and a fourth from Ottawa. Ottawa gets back Mason Raymond in a third. That's an interesting move. So Ottawa gets better offensively and sacrifices more defense. Minnesota gets better defensively, sacrifices a little bit of offense. Okay. Vancouver gets two generated prospects, Sherov and Nevins. Columbus gets back Cody Franson. All right. Toronto gets Peter Mueller from Anaheim. So that's a nice little ad for Toronto, considering they need a little bit more depth, I guess, down the middle. And now they have Peter Mueller. Anaheim gets back two prospects, once a goalie prospect again, and some guy named Sasaki. All right. Philadelphia gets Justin Schultz from Anaheim, so Anaheim offloading a lot of interesting players, it looks like. Anaheim gets back a prospect that's generated named Cummins in a second. All right. Yeah, Anaheim definitely offloaded a lot, which might actually be good for us because I think that was the team that we were competing with for one of the last playoff spots, so that might help us in a way. Calgary gets Tyson Barrie, which is funny because he was actually there in real life this actual season, not in 2017, but is in 2025. Mike Blunden also goes there from Colorado. Colorado gets back a second, a third, and Malcolm Subban. Yeah, a lot of goalie prospects are getting moved out. Dallas also got another goalie prospect, Brashear, and another goalie prospect, holy crap, from Toronto. Toronto gets back Matt Carl, a third, and Riley Smith. So Toronto's loading up, even though they weren't super crazy, I don't think. And then there's our trades. So that's kind of interesting. I do actually want to go back to the lines. I know some of you guys don't want to see the lines and all that, but I do want to go to Toronto's lines again because I feel like Toronto, I know I've been focusing them a lot on the series. I'm not a Leafs fan. I hate the Leafs, but Toronto's been really interesting in terms of how they've ran this team in this franchise mode. They've had some really weird seasons, but they've brought in some really good players over the years, and now bringing in guys like Riley Smith to this team, Peter Mueller, like their forward group is a lot stronger. Their defensive core, adding Matt Carl, is a lot stronger too. So they definitely are focusing on some of their needs a little bit. So it's kind of good when you see the AI actually doing stuff that makes sense for them. Now, Toronto, I don't know where they are in the standings, but I don't know if they're going to even be a playoff team this year. But they are trying to make their team better at least, which is good. All right, so with that said, I think we're ready to simulate the rest of the season and see if this team makes the playoffs. Obviously, we're going to take it a little bit slow, though, because we don't know for sure if we're going to be a playoff team, but I'm excited to see what the new faces in the lineup could do. Will Holden be able to bring that offensive punch from the AHL? Will Brock Nelson be able to help us out on second line? And will Fada be able to continue to produce as a second line right winger? Let's go through 2 weeks at a time. Maybe not 2 weeks. No, let's go 2 weeks at a time. It's a lot of games to go through, but let's see if this team can string together some wins and help ourselves push back into the playoffs. First game against the Coyotes as Boston has fired their head coach. So Eberle just went to a team that they fired their head coach apparently. So shout out to Curtis Christensen. But Phoenix is a 3-0 win. That's a good defensive effort. Love to see it. Not too bad offensively either. We do lose 2-0 after that. Lost 7-1 to Colorado, but then beat St. Louis and Colorado again. Okay. 2 shootout wins, and then we lose to Ottawa. So a bit inconsistent in those 2 weeks, but we are still fighting, trying to find a way into that playoff mix. We should probably actually take a look again where we are in the standings so we remember how close we actually are to the playoffs right now. Even if we get in by 1 point, it could give us a chance to get back into the conference finals or something. So, Western Conference. So at the moment, yeah, Anaheim has that last spot. They have been offloading people, so maybe we could squeak in. We are right there though with them, but we are still 3 points back with the same amount of games played. So we're hoping for a losing streak from Anaheim, Minnesota, or Nashville, and we're hoping we could go on a nice little streak soon to get back into the playoff mix. If we sort off by points percentage, we are actually, though, in 10th. So we got to watch out for teams like San Jose as well. So if we play San Jose or Anaheim, we got to win those games. We got to win those games just to help us get back into that mix. We actually do have a game against the Sharks right now. Didn't even realize that. But we do have a lot of games against teams that we're trying to bump in the standings, I think. So we had a lot of games, I think, against Anaheim early this season, if I remember right. But this is a big game. This one could decide who's technically in the playoffs by the end of the season. Let's go through it by itself, and then we'll go through a few more games afterwards, see if we're making some headway or not. But game against San Jose on home ice, 4-1 loss. That's not ideal. Not a good offensive effort again. Yeah, I feel like our offense is definitely still slacking off a little bit here. Dallas is all of a sudden doing way better than they were. I feel like Dallas has gone a lot better since we made that trade with them. So Jankomas might be doing good there, which is not ideal. But let's continue to go a little bit more. We might make some line adjustments, though, if we lose a few more games. So first and foremost, Dallas against Jankomas. We win 6-2. Nice victory there. Nashville's a 6-5 victory, and Atlanta's a 5-2 win. Those are 3 great offensive games in a row. I love to see that. That could potentially help us a lot with that wildcard spot. But obviously, we are still in a dog race right now. So let's go back to standings, just take an updated look at this. I don't want to really go back to the standings so many times, though. Actually, I guess I could take a look on the other screens, but I just don't want to see the point leaders and all that. So right now, San Jose's got that last playoff spot. We are only a point back of them with the same amount of games played. And if we sort off points percentage, technically, we are very close also to Nashville. So, okay, so Anaheim's fallen off, but it is very, very tight race. Like, we need to make sure we don't lose too many in a row, or else that could definitely hurt our chances. So let's continue to build off those last 3 games and see if we can maybe climb more in the standings, get ourselves back into the playoff mix a bit. But it's definitely been a better second half of the season than it was in the first half, but it's still been way worse than I was expecting. All right, let's go through 3 more games. We have a tough game against the Kings here. We have also a game against St. Louis, who hasn't been super good either, and a game against the Coyotes, who have been pretty bad. So hopefully we could take at least 2 of these 3 games. Let's see how we do. First game against the tough Kings team. We win 4-1. That's 4 straight good offensive games. We beat St. Louis and we beat the Coyotes. We are all of a sudden on a 6-game win streak near the end of March. That's actually really huge at this point. I was not expecting us to go on a win streak at this point, but that could definitely be what helps get us into the playoffs as long as we don't lose a bunch. We still have 8 games to go, so we can't go on a 5-game losing streak or something. But 1 more game left to end off March against Vancouver, as they have fired their head coach, so we probably won that game, I would assume. The answer is yes, we did, 5-0. Okay, good. Because if we would have lost that game and they would have fired their head coach, I would have been kind of shocked on that, but a 7-game winning streak at the end of March, and we are probably back in the playoff mix with a total of 7 games left on the season. Let's go back to the standings and stuff like that. I don't really want to go back to that because I also don't want to see the point leaders yet, but let's just quickly do that. Cameron's still on 75 points now. If we go over to the Western Conference, we are in 7th place now. The Sharks have fallen out of the mix by a little bit, actually by quite a bit, which is huge. We are tied with Nashville in points, and we're 4 points up on Anaheim. We have less games played than everybody else, pretty much, too. So we're in a good spot. We just got to find a way to not blow this here at the end. Like a 7-game winning streak right now is really nice, but obviously if we lose a bunch in a row, it's not going to matter. So we just got to be calm here. Let's go to 2 games. We got Philadelphia and St. Louis, both on the road before a nice little homestand to end the season. And Dale Holden has been injured. So unfortunately, the youngster will be injured and he will be missing, I think, the start of the playoffs. He's out till the 22nd with a neck strain. I am going to go replace player on that for the time being. We do beat Philadelphia. We do lose to St. Louis, but it was a nice 8-game win streak at the end of that, so that's not too bad. We have not clinched a playoff spot yet, but we are probably very close to it, my guess. Because the other teams have all played more games than us for the most part. So, Vancouver in a game against Nashville, who's a team we're kind of competing with right now. Can we find a way to win one or both of these games? Vancouver is a win, and we have clinched the playoff spot because there's a conversation with their head coach. And yep, we have clinched a playoff spot. So this team had a really bad start to the year, but we made some moves, and this team has found themselves back in with a new coach, which is great. I thought Chapman was our old head coach, though, wasn't he? I thought he was the coach I fired, or was that a different coach? I honestly don't even know. But anyways, we finished 40, 30, and 9 at this point now. We have 3 more games to go. We could definitely still jump up higher in the standings, too. Where are we currently? Yeah, no, we can't actually jump higher. There's no way we're going to catch up to the Avs at this point. But we are locked in this spot, potentially, as long as we don't lose all 3 games. We actually have a game against the Wild coming up, so that one likely could decide who ends up finishing lower of the 2 teams. But let's go through these last few games. Chicago, who is a great team, is going to be a win. Damn, our team's only literally lost 1 game in its last 11, I think, going into the playoffs. So all of a sudden, we're a completely different team than we started the year on. So the coach definitely making a huge difference. Game against Minnesota, can we beat them? The answer is no, we can't. And we have guaranteed that we're going to finish 3rd place because Minnesota's already finished their season now. So that's good. But this team has made it back into the playoffs. We do lose the last 2 games of the season, but we finished 41, 32, and 9. So, like I was saying, not a crazy season, but definitely a really good second half. Bringing in that new coach, I think, definitely helped things quite a bit. And yeah, it isn't Chapman who's our head coach. He's our assistant coach now, but since he was our head coach at the beginning of the season, the game got confused, and he was the one that had the coaching interview thing. So I got to mention that to EA. That's probably a bug, I guess. But Appleby helped us get back into the playoffs, and we'll see if this team actually could get it done, and obviously in the next episode. But first and foremost, let's take a look at some stats. But first, we got to hide everything, and we got to go to the standings and close our eyes so we don't see anything about the points yet. But in terms of the entire league, where did we finish in the standings? Washington was the best team, in case you guys were running 60 wins for them. Pittsburgh, number 2. But we end up finishing as the 13th best team in the NHL, which is not the craziest, but it's definitely not too bad. In terms of goals for per game, we scored 2.9 goals for per game, which isn't the best offensively for sure. We definitely were lackluster in that area, but that definitely could improve. We do have a lot of young talent on this team that I know can produce, but I think they'll do it maybe more so in the playoffs. From a goals against perspective, we finished as the 4th best defensive team behind Calgary, Columbus, and Tampa. Then we go to our special teams. Power play percentage wasn't super crazy. It was 15%, so it was near the bottom of the league. And then penalty kills 85.7%, which is tied for 2nd. So once again, good defensive team. Offense needs some work, but at least I think it maybe improved a bit. We only had 1 short-handed goal this year, so not a lot of shorties. We are good on home ice, not very good on the road, but 7-3 going into the postseason. So that's exciting. All right, and leading our team in points, I was not expecting that, is actually going to be Nathan MacKinnon this year. But once again, let's hide this, and let's close my eyes. Let's change the position so I don't see anything about anybody else's point stats or how many goals people have. Let's go, boom, and game. All right, Nathan MacKinnon, 79 points, as I said, lead the team in points. Actually, him and Cameron tied in points, so that's nice to see. Good years for both of them. Obviously, Nathan MacKinnon's starting to find that goal scorer, and he's now a 4-time 30-goal scorer, 3-time 30-goal scorer, I should say. Almost a 40-goal scorer this year. But I think him on the top line is probably where we want to keep him next to Cameron. So, pretty solid on that. Cameron, once again, had a good year as well. Like I said, both of them have been probably the best 2 players on this team. And that's the exact same point totals he had last year. Less goals, but more assists. And yeah, Cameron is continuously getting better every year. Face-off percentages around the same. Giveaway, takeaway ratio around the same. He's consistent, and that's good. Aside from that, Brock Nelson, we brought him in from Dallas. And he had 21 points in 21 games down the stretch. So he definitely helped provide offense on that second line, which is definitely something we were lacking with Jankumov's. But he scored a good chunk of goals. He also picked up a good chunk of assists. Was point per game. That's awesome. So obviously we're going to have to look into giving him a contract extension because I think he's a perfect player for the second line right now. I probably also need to change his jersey number to number 29 because I just realized he's number 31 as a forward, which is absolutely disgusting because that should just be a goaltender number. So we got to do that before we end this episode for sure, if I remember. Kenny Marcoux, though, 42 points. Minus 17 kind of sucks, but I do really like the 42 points from Marcoux. He's definitely finding that offensive game as well, and he's barely making any money. Didn't have any shorthanded goals or shorthanded points this year, which is a bit weird. Because normally he has shorthanded points every year, but still finding that offensive game a bit, which is nice. 24 points from Boone, not bad. Left wing side of things, Nyquist finished with 57, I'll take it. Lation 23. Holden only had 4 points in 15 games, so he did score 3 goals, which is nice. Had 30 shots on goal in 15 games, so he does shoot the puck a lot, but he is not scoring like he was in the AHL for sure. So I don't know about having him still in the third line spot, but maybe we still keep him in that area. But I think he needs to find his offensive game still at the NHL level quite a bit. I think we need to try and get him to grow in his shooting accuracy if possible. So maybe that's an off-season focus thing for us to do. Barchi had 4 points in 7 games. So Barchi's probably better to play on in the lineup than Holden is, but Holden's currently hurt, so it doesn't matter that much, I guess. Right wing side of things, Toffoli, 57 points, 37 goals, 23, or not 27 goals. Did I say 37 goals or 57 goals? I honestly don't know. I just said 23 goals this season. Definitely a down year for him, but better plus minus. And he's still good and probably still worth the type of money he's getting paid at the moment. Fada, 49 points, 26 goals for George, or Jorge, or whatever you want to call him. But Fada's been good. Fada's been good. He's actually a better offensive producer than I would think, just because he's got good awareness, but his shot's only a 3-star shot. And he's got 81 passing, but he's been kind of underrated this playoffs, or this regular season, I think. And I'm excited to see his next step, because I think he's getting better every single year, probably, too. He is still on a 3-year deal as well, so he's not making that much at the moment. Then we also have Yakupov on 32 points, not too bad for Nail. And Val had 16 points, but obviously not getting a lot of playing time. It would be nice to get Nikushkin into that third line spot. Maybe I could put him in that third line spot instead of Holden, but I don't know if he's going to really produce either, because he also hasn't generated enough growth in his shooting areas. Like, his offensive awareness is good, but his passing is His shooting is really bad, though, so I don't really know why he's not growing in that area, but we should probably try and get him to be better there. In terms of our defensemen, 30 points from Falk this year. It's okay. 27 from Zherdev, solid. Moss had 20 points and 12 goals. I'll take that for a rookie. Metropolitan 16 points. Holinka 13 points plus 14. Mackey had 13 points. It's not bad. Decent offensive spread throughout our back end. And then from a goaltending perspective, Vasilevsky had a .917 save percentage, 5 shutouts, and a 2.53 goals against. So he continues to be the MVP in net. And then obviously Cameron and McKinnon are the other best 2 players. But definitely we need to still find some more depth, I think, in a way, or get some more growth from our team. But I think we're starting to figure out what our team is as a roster, which is good. So there's that. Let's take a look at some stats around the league as well, see who led the NHL in points and goals and all that stuff. So the best point getter this year was Ovechkin with 153 points. God damn. Malkin behind him, Semin right behind him too. So a lot of Russians up there. Ovechkin was the best goal scorer, 83 goals in 82 games. Outrageous. All right. Best defenseman for points this year was Chris Letang in Pittsburgh, 74. Goligoski, I think, was leading when we last looked, if I remember right, but now he finished 3rd. Petro finished up there. Erik Karlsson up there as well. All right. Best goalies in terms of wins. Holtby, 53 wins this season. God damn. Most shutouts this year, though, was Linus Ullmark with 8. Best save percentage by a starter is likely to be Vasi for us. And best goals against average by a starter is Vasi. Actually, Hiller probably. It's probably going to go to Hiller, the Vezina, again. He has won Vezinas already in this series. And because his goals against average is worse than Vasi's, or better than Vasi's, I should say, Yeah, he's probably going to win it. They have the same save percentage, but he has one more shutout, better goals against, and a way better win-loss ratio. So unfortunately, I don't think Fassy's going to win his first Vezina. Was thinking he might, but Hiller won it last year, and there's likely a chance Hiller might repeat. Best rookie of the season in terms of point production was Nikita Gusev with 54 points. Also led rookies in goals, it looks like. So he's likely going to be your Calder favorite, which is interesting because I was not expecting him to grow as crazy as he did, but I guess he developed well. Okay, so there is that. Now the question I have is, who are we playing in round one? We obviously can't see right now because the playoff tree is still locked, but we will find out in a second here. Obviously, we'll get that notification once I advance a day. So here it is. Who are we playing in round one? The answer is the LA Kings. Oh my god. I feel like we play LA every year. And the fact that the LA Kings finished 49, 29, and 4 after they lost Kopitar to Toronto in free agency is insane. Is absolutely insane. So regular season comparison, in case you guys want to see this, we were 20th in goals for, they were 12th, so both teams not the craziest offense. We were 4th in goals against, they were 13th, so they're more of an average team, I guess, in terms of stuff, except for their penalty kill, of course. But power play percentage, we were 20th, they were 12th, so they're better on the power play. And penalty kill, we were 3rd, they were 1st on the penalty kill at 90%. So very solid defensive team, the LA Kings are, but they definitely maybe simulated better than expected. Because like I said, they did lose Kopitar to free agency. I thought they would drop off a bit, but definitely they have a nice new replacement probably on that top line. So let's take a look first at the actually, no, we'll take a look at what the roster looks like. And then we'll take a look at their player stats. Then we'll take a look at the actual playoff tree so we can kind of see who is facing who. But we've played LA, I think, 3 times in the series already. This would be our 3rd time because last year we played them. And I think we played them also in the early stages of this franchise mode. But here's their team. Oh, yeah, they brought in Adam Henrique. That's right, for the top line spot. And they also made some trades. But first line, O'Sullivan, Henrique, and Dustin Brown. Second line, Jerome McGinley at 39 years old with Nick Foligno and Anders Lee. Solid second line. Third line is Vladimir Sobotka, Yori Laterra, and Wayne Simmons. And a fourth line, a BJ Crombie. Our guy Alexander Burmistrov is not getting utilized well there behind Yori Laterra. And there's also John Mitchell. Yeah, it's still a pretty damn solid team. I can definitely see why they did good this season. Obviously trading for guys like Foligno, though. Trading for John Mitchell. Trading for McGinley a few years ago. Bringing in Henrique in the offseason. They've definitely done well with that cap space that they got to save because they moved out Kopitar. From a defensive standpoint, Paul Martin, Drew Doughty. Good top pairing, Zbigniew McCulloch and Alec Martinez, and the other Drew Doughty and Slava Volinov. Good defensive core still. And then from a goaltending perspective, it's still Jonathan Quick at 31 years old. And I forgot we traded him there for some reason, even though that was at the beginning of the season. Kai Tuominen, our former young goaltender who played in the AHL for a while. We traded him there. He posted an .880 save percentage, so he wasn't super good, but yeah, he got dealt early in the season, and now he will maybe get a chance to play against us if Quick is terrible. Scratch-wise, I have Stahlberg, Oreskovich, and Ryan Jones. Yeah, that's a good team still. I don't know what their offensive production's like, but obviously Jerome McGinley could probably still be a threat, even though he's 39 years old, I'm guessing. So let's take a look at their player stats, and then we will look at the actual playoff tree as well. But I think this is going to be another tough matchup, as it usually is with the LA Kings. So let's actually sort this by centers to go each position for them. So this is their stats from the regular season. Henrique had 73 points playing as a top-line guy. And you can see what the LA stuff does for him. He was only a 35-point guy in 60 games with Toronto last year. Got dealt to Minnesota. Had a brief playoff run with them. And now he's an LA King and he's got 73 points. So he's figuring out his game a lot more with the LA Kings than he was with Toronto. Aside from that, there's Burmistrov. 47 points for Burmistrov is quite impressive because he did not get a lot of ice time. Don't know if he even gets power play time with them, but looks like he had a good year. There's also Yuri Laterra on 35 points, Sobotka on 28, and John Mitchell on 27. Like I said, he was a trade deadline acquisition from Anaheim. Doesn't do too much offense, but could help out defensively a bit. Left wing side of things, Patrick O'Sullivan, 81 points. He's regressing a little bit, but he's still really good. Anders Leon, 52 points. Nick Foligno, how did he do since joining the Kings? 7 points in 13 games. That's pretty solid, actually. He is playing second line now. Stahlberg on 5 points in 23 games. Ryan Jones on an assist in 1 game. Right wing wise, again, let's see, 47 goals still for Jerome McGinley, despite being 39 years old. You also have Dustin Brown on 61 points. So Brown actually is regressing a little bit since Kopitar left. Because when Kopitar was there, he was over 100 points and 90 points. But yeah, he regressed a lot without Kopitar. So that's interesting. Wayne Simmons, 32 points. Crombie on 13. Defensively, Drew Doughty on 48. That's the real one. Paul Martin, 36. Martinez, 33. Foligno, 33. The other Drew Doughty had 18 points. All right. And then from a goaltending perspective, Jonathan Quick on a 905. And we saw Tuomainen on an 880. Yeah, this Kings team is good, it looks like, on paper. But they definitely didn't simulate as crazy as they have in the past. Because losing Kopitar was a substantial blow. But they still won a lot of games this season. So we could definitely not take that for granted. All right, so now the question is, what is the playoff matchups looking like for 2017? Are we going to get some interesting matchups? Let's take a look at this. So first round in the West is Calgary versus Nashville in 1v8. You have Columbus versus Minnesota in 2v7. Us in LA, 3v6. We also have Chicago and Colorado in 4v5. And then in terms of the Eastern Conference, it's 1v8. It's Philadelphia and Washington. 2v7, you have Pittsburgh and the New York Rangers. That should be an interesting series. You also have Montreal and New Jersey in 3v6. And Tampa and Atlanta in 4v5. Interesting. That should be a good playoff run. Since this is 2017, technically the Cup Finals would have been Nashville and Pittsburgh. Both teams are in the playoffs, so maybe you'll get some realistic result there. Maybe you'll get a realistic results. If not, hopefully get some sort of a realistic team. I mean, having Calgary and Columbus finish the top two teams in the West doesn't make a lot of sense. Columbus would have been the East at this point already by now, but damn. Some of these teams I was not expecting to play playoff teams, but they are. All right. In terms of the AHL, you have Houston, Abbotsford, Toronto, Hamilton, Milwaukee, Chicago, Manitoba, and San Antonio. And then in the East, you have Hartford and Manchester, Adirondack and Norfolk. Our Springfield Falcons will be taking on Providence. And you also have Portland and Wilkes-Barre Scranton. All right. So there is the playoff matchups. Last thing I wanted to do before I almost forget is going back to the jersey numbers, because I want to make sure Brock Nelson's not wearing 31 as a forward, because that just does not work for me. We can't give him 29 because Nathan McKinnon's here, which also came into effect when he became a Colorado Avalanche, which is kind of funny. 92 is also taken by Cameron. So our best two players are taking numbers from Brock Nelson. So I think the best number for Brock Nelson is maybe number 9. I'm trying to think if that's a good number for him. What number does he wear in Colorado right now? Maybe it's 11? I feel like maybe he wears 11. Let me see on Brock Nelson, because we want to give him a realistic number here. And obviously we can't give him the 29 or the 92. I don't remember what number Brock Nelson wears as a Colorado Avalanche, if my computer will actually not be slow. Yeah, it's number 11, I thought so. So we'll give him number 11 in Edmonton. That would make me think of Mark Messier. Number 9 would make me think of Glenn Anderson. But let's go for number 9 here for Brock Nelson. That's a decent number. Make him look like a Vander Kane. I'm joking. But in case you guys wanted to see the rest of the jersey numbers again, here's what the players are wearing. Nyquist wearing 17 is kind of weird. Is 14 taken for him or what? It doesn't look like it. We could try and get some of these other guys to change numbers too, I guess. Let's get more realistic numbers for some of them. Like Nyquist should be 14, because obviously he's never worn 17 as far as I know. The rest of these guys are mostly generated, I think, so that's fine. We could put Yakupov to 10 by now, but I don't think I want to. Big Val being 43, we could do that. Get him to his number instead of that, and that should be fine. The rest of it gets a lot of generated guys on this team, so there's a little bit of a rework in the jersey numbers. All right, is there anything else we got to do before we end this episode? I don't think so. Let me go back to the draft board for a second, even though we're not focused on the offseason at all. We have a lot of picks in this upcoming draft. Might have to use those in trade bait potentially at the draft itself if it's a decent draft class for us. Is there new people we could pin potentially? Just so we could actually keep tabs on this draft. Because obviously we could have a good playoff run this year, but also we might end up getting knocked out early. So just got to keep tabs and make sure we could find ourselves some good players for the future still too. There's only that one guy that we're thinking is maybe a Lowell Leighton Peckham. But there's no guarantees on a lot of these dudes, which kind of sucks. So we'll probably end up having to wait a little bit on the draft class type of stuff. So anything else I want to take a look at? I don't think so. I do not think so. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Oh my goodness, I just burped. Of our Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 franchise mode. So next episode, we'll have another matchup with the LA Kings in the first round of the playoffs, this time without Anze Kopitar being on their teams. So I don't know what to think. Obviously, the LA Kings were a good team during the season, but I do think they kind of simulated not as good as they probably could have if they had Kopitar still. So maybe that gives us an edge, but also maybe that makes them more of an underdog team that actually might perform really good against us. So it should be a good defensive battle. Regardless, they were a good penalty kill team. We were as well. So I think it obviously going to come down to whoever's power play maybe could do better. Something like that. But hoping that we can find our offense against them and find ourselves to the next round and maybe get back to a conference finals again this year. Regardless, it's more experience for the young team, which is good to see. So I think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.